Salvete. Tēa Tempus III. If you're drinking your tea with me, cheers. So here's the real. Most language learners never make progress for one brutal reason. And I want to be very clear about this. I'm not a linguist. I'm certainly not a polyglot. Okay? I'm a metaphysicist. I've been learning Latin for the last 3 months. And I've also been engaging with some Greek here and there, some Spanish. Like I actually just decided to start watching like Money Heist in Spanish for like more comprehensible input. But like my phone has been inside, like my phone is in Spanish. You can see, sab. You might, okay, you can kind of see it. Hello, you see, mensajes. Is that it? Yeah, mensajes. Okay. So I've been on my language acquisition, my language learning shit for the past 3 months, right? And the thing is, I have come to this realization, one, with my own practice, two, with all of the linguists I've learned from, all of the polyglots I've learned from, all of the Latin teachers and stuff like that. And I've realized that people's core problem is actually way simpler, but it's also so much harder than we realize. And the thing is, what I'm about to tell you is actually so simple, it's going to blow your mind. But the problem is, the human ego simply doesn't want to do it. Okay? You know, a lot of people are, like, they operate under the belief that children can, like, acquire languages, like easier or better, or that, like children are inherently better at learning languages than adults. But that's actually not the case. It's not that children have something that adults don't. In fact, it's the opposite. It's that they don't have something adults do. Give me a sec. What's this thing called? Oh no, this part of my tea bag fell in, so it's kind of wet now, so I'm gonna like, just grab a little real quick. I totally missed that. So bad. Stick to the metaphysics, dude. Alright, so boom. The reason that children are better, not even better, they're just less resistant to language acquisition, it's very, very simple. It's because children haven't yet developed a conscious will and identity that has to understand everything that's happening for it to engage with reality. Now, what do I mean by that? Put in very simple terms, children are just more willing to surrender to the unknown than adults are. It's that simple. Honestly, it really is that simple. And you don't realize, but this is actually the thing that's been holding you back in your language acquisition journey. You know, like a lot of people think that like grammar translation is like an effective way of like learning a language, but it's not. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, were you like learning grammar rules when you were like 2 years old, when you started speaking English or, you know, your native language or whatever? Fuck no. You just took in the language for like the first 2 years of your life, and then sounds started happening. You know, maybe like a year or so. Maybe you actually started like forming some words after like 2 years, right? I was an early speaker. I was speaking at like 2, and then I was really developing at like 3, 4. Like I was reading at like 3. I've always been very good with like comprehension. And for me, I think that that's because inherently, I have this relationship with the unknown that makes me want to be in it until I do know. You know what I mean? Like for me, the unknown isn't scary, it's fun. The unknown isn't somewhere that makes me like contract, it gets me excited. You know what I'm saying? Now, a lot of people aren't built like that. Right now, a lot of people, I consider myself a hunter. A hunter goes out into the forest and goes out into the terrain, and they don't know what was going to happen that day. They just know they have to be willing to adapt based on what reality calls for that day. The hunter goes out into the unknown to be transformed, to, get resources, to learn, to do whatever, right? To, hunt and then bring things back to the tribe. There are certain people that are hunters who go out into the forest because their nervous systems actually thrive in the unknown. For other people, that shit isn't enlivening, it's brittling. For certain people, going out into the unknown is fucking scary. And staying in the unknown, even when you don't figure it out, it's a pain in the fucking ass, okay? Like, I'm gonna be real, guys. I'm not saying that, like, I can figure things out quicker than you guys because I'm, like, smarter than you. I'm a pretty fucking smart guy. Intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, creatively. I'm up there. But when I talk about being in the unknown and surrendering to the unknown, this isn't like an intellectual thing. This is desire. This is about desire. Jaden simply wants to be in the unknown. Why? Because I want to know things. And the thing is, if I'm in some place I already know, I'm not knowing more things unless I'm asking new questions to figure out things I don't know within that place, right? Of course, there's always infinite depth within domains, right? But there's a certain point where you reach where you're like, I already know the things that I want to know from this domain, from this terrain. Staying in this terrain wouldn't serve me anymore because I want to know more stuff. And so what do? You got to go to new terrain. Certain people are built to just go to a bunch of different terrains and to let reality transform them in the unsafety of it. Those people are often the people who come back to the tribe and then build safe spaces for the people who aren't like them. And that's what I do. I don't ask people to go out into the unknown and to, like, hunt reality like I do. I think that's an unrealistic ask because most people don't have that same desire I do. Now, if you resonate with me, if you're a hunter who burns too hot to sit still, you probably are like that. But when it comes to, like, everything I'm building in my life, like, I'm building my business, Scriptōrium, I'm building Ecclesia Renascantiae, that's my mystical church, that's going to be inclusive of all religions, all faiths. I'm building Academia Renascantiae, which is going to be a public library with a K-12 classical academy attached to it. Right? So I'm building this shit over the next 30 years. I'm building some pretty big shit, some pretty cool shit. Right? And these things, for me, they're structures that allow people to transform, not within the unknowns, like, of the forest, but within, like, the known safety of the structure, right? The system, right? Either whether that be Scriptōrium, whether that be Ecclesia, whether that be Academia, even whether that be just like an energetic space that I create, like this YouTube video, or like, when I'm talking to somebody. I create safe spaces that allow the transformation to happen in the safe space. I usually get transformed in the unsafe space because that's how I like it. And then I make the safe spaces for people to transform. Just not how I did. It's the same like path, and it's the same like process, but it's a different approach, right? Instead of going through the transformation process in the unknown, you're going through the transformation process in the known, right? Here's the thing. A lot of people think that language acquisition is about knowing things and like mapping those things. Like, people think that they're gonna like learn a language by projecting their primary operating system onto a new language. But it's like, but that's not gonna work though. It's like, well, why isn't it gonna work, Jaden? It's because that language doesn't operate like your native language does. Like, here's the thing that most people don't actually get. Languages aren't about words or even about sounds. Because words don't actually hold meaning themselves. All they do is point to meaning. And so we have to recognize, like, words don't carry inherent meaning in and of themselves. Our minds give them the meaning. Our thoughts are the things that our thoughts and emotions are what actually charge the words for them to mean things. Like, let me give you this example. You didn't know what the color, like you didn't know what green meant until someone explained to you the sensation of something, you know, absorbing the colors in the light spectrum, absorbing white light, and then absorbing all the light, and then only emitting this one color, and then that experience of your optics receiving that color that it's emitting, that's called green. But in Spanish, it's called verde. It's like you see how the word green doesn't mean anything? It's just a symbol to that experience, just as verde is a symbol to that same experience. It's not the experience itself, it's the finger that points to it. And so what I need you to understand is that, like, people think that, like, languages are like systems of meaning, when it's really languages are systems of thought that point to meaning, help us understand meaning, and help us express meaning. But the thing is, every language operates differently. That's why different languages exist. Right? Because we're people, and we think differently. We have different lives, we have different experiences, we value different things, we see things differently. So of course our systems of thought will be different. The problem is when you try to project your native system of thought, like for me, English, onto another system, which is like how most of the grammar translation is. Hey, this means this thing in this language, it means this thing in my language. Okay, awesome. The problem is what you're doing is you're attempting to learn the language through like your conscious mind. But that's not really how language acquisition works. You weren't studying words and grammar when you were 2 years old. You were just letting language come into your life, into your being. You were just soaking it in. That's why comprehensible input is elite and why grammar translation usually sucks cock. Now, I'm not saying grammar isn't important. No. We need grammar exercises. We need to understand grammar. We need to understand the rules of how a language operates. That's what grammar is. That's why syntax is important. I'm not saying it's not important. What I'm saying is people try to understand how the language operates before they understand what the language is. You're trying to figure out the rules to how to apply the language properly. You don't even know what the language is about. You don't even know what it is, right? Like, you didn't learn grammar until you were like 5 or 6. You were already speaking English for 2 to 3 years at that point. You were already speaking your native language for 2 to 3 years at that point. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you're operating from a fallacy. You need to stop trying to approach language acquisition from this like conscious methodology all the time. You need to let the language come to you. You need to just passively listen to the language. You need to just engage with it. You need to watch a movie that is in a different language, in your target language, and not know what's going on. And that's okay. Like, the thing is, being present in the unknown over an extended period of time is the only way to actually know things. Like, the problem is you think you can acquire knowing, like true knowing, by like skipping your way through like the walking of the unknown, but that's not how it works. That would be like a child saying, I understand something because I cheated off this person's test. It's like, no, you copied someone else's knowing. You copied someone else's understanding. You didn't have it internally. You're operating from a fallacy. You see what I'm getting at here? The language needs to be inside of you internally. How do you do that? By being present with it and allowing it to do that. By listening to the language and not having to understand it. Just allowing it to start shaping your mind. To start allowing your subconscious to recognize patterns over an extended period of time with enough data, with enough input. That's why you need a fuck ton of comprehensible input. And so, like, if you're a language learner, I just want to give you one simple action step. You need to approach your language acquisition in like 80-20, 80% comprehend, honestly, maybe even like 90-10, no cap. Honestly, I would say 90-10. But 80-20 if you're someone who's like, you know, if your mind just really can't submit to the unknown. I get it. 80% of when you're engaging your target language should be comprehensible input. It should be just listening to the language. It can be even listening and reading along, right? It should be listening while you're just working on something passively, right? Like allowing your mind to start understanding this language is a part of my life Get fucking used to it, biatch. You feel what I'm saying? Once your mind understands that, it's gonna start getting used to it. Your mind's gonna start adapting. Your brain's gonna start adapting. The problem is you aren't allowing your brain to adapt to the thought system of the new language because you're still trying to operate within your primary thought system. That's never gonna work. If you want to actually understand a language, not just know rules about it, but you want to actually understand it and acquire it. You don't want to learn about a language. You want to know the language. You got to do this. You got to do the input. You got to surrender to the unknown. Right, let me actually give you some examples of how I'm applying this in my language journey. Here's my drink. Wrote about this in my journal this morning. Actually, this was last night. Okay, so language acquisition sauce. You know what I mean? So pyramid method, LLPSI. So the pyramid method is basically, I got this from Luke Randiati over on Polymathy, and he was actually making it based on the video, based on the book Fluent Forever or Fluency Forever. I forgot the author of that, but the pyramid method comes from that book, and then I got it from Luke's video. And so the pyramid method is basically, when it comes to like a graded reader, it doesn't even have to be a graded reader, but when it comes to learning a language, like graded readers start with, so like the graded reader I'm using is Lingua Latina per se illustrata, right? They start with like, it starts simple and it complexes over time. And so like the problem is, I found this within my own experience as I've been engaging with Latin over the last 3 months. I've had Lingua Latina for maybe like 2 months, but I've only gotten through like the first 3 chapters of the audio because I would always find myself feeling like I had to, really sit down and commit to like 20, 30 minutes, 60 minutes of engaging with the language if I wanted to really make progress. The pyramid method reshifted my mindset. And it said, Jaden, don't do this like chronology in terms of like, okay, chapter 1, and then chapter 2, and then chapter 3. And the problem is, if there was like time in between those things, you might forget, like what chapter 1 and 2 were talking about. You might have been flowing in terms of like chapter 1, chapter 2, you got it. Chapter 3, it was all good the first time, but then you took off for like a week. And then when you came back to it, you have no clue what the fuck chapter 3 is talking about. You know what I mean? And so the pyramid method basically avoids that by always restarting. And what I mean by that is you start with chapter 1, and then after you read chapter 1, you don't go on to chapter 2. You reread chapter 1, then you read chapter 2. And then after chapter 2, you don't go on to chapter 3. No. You reread chapter 1, then chapter 2, then you can go on to chapter 3, right? And so I've basically been doing this with the audio of Lingua Latina, and it's been I've been doing it over the past 4 days. I've already seen like genuine progress in my ability to pronounce Latin, and then also to distinguish Latin when I'm hearing it, right? So like I've been getting better at distinguishing like elisions and like when Latin merges and stuff like that. And I've also been able to use that, and like my Latin pronunciation has improved based on that. And I've only been doing the pyramid method for the past like 4 days. Let me see if I can I'll show you that I'm not just like talking shit. Pull it up on my laptop real quick. Let me see if you guys can see this. Yeah. All right, you can kind of see this. I'll like brighten this up for you. I'm in. Boom skis. So that's my spreadsheet. So I started, you can see 223, and then I didn't do the method yesterday because I just didn't fucking feel like it. But I've been doing it over the past 4 days. So I started February 23rd. That was when I watched Luke's video for the first time. And then I just have a very simple spreadsheet here. One, I'm tracking the input style. So you can see here, listening / reading. So like doing both at the same time, listening to the audio and actively like following along and reading it. I also have like passive listening while working. And so it's like if I'm like working on something, I'll just have it playing in the background. I have dates and times for when I do the sessions. I have like my favorite new phrase that was saved. So I'll save this one. Num oceanus atlanticus parus est? Non parus, sed magnus est oceanus. Is the Atlantic Ocean small? Not small. is big, the ocean. The ocean is very big. Right? Study word / rule. So like after every session, I choose like a word or a rule to study so I can actually be conscious about how I'm improving. And then grammar reps, this isn't like an optional one. If I want to practice some grammar, you can see here NA, NA, NA. I don't practice grammar every day because I don't care. Because what's more important is engaging with the language. But if I want to get some reps in, I will, right? And so that's my spreadsheet over the last few days. Yo, road to Renaissance. Tap in. Let me readjust this. So yeah, the pyramid method is fucking elite. I'm not gonna lie. It's fucking elite. Excuse. Let's readjust that. It's all good. All right, cool. So yeah, the pyramid method, really good. So there's also, I've been listening to 2 songs. So one is Duke Me, which is a translation of Be Prepared from The Lion King, performed by Luke Ranieri, as well as translated by Stefano Vittori. And then there's also Duke Me ad Lunam. And Duke Me ad Lunam is a translation of Fly Me to the Moon. And so those are both covers sung by Luke, translated by Stefano. And those have been like the 2 songs that I've been using as like my music into language acquisition, right? So I'm not just listening to audio and like, you know, like like the graded reader. I'm listening to music, right? I'm also doing grammar exercises with desire, right? Or at constraint. So what I mean by at constraint is I keep seeing this pattern, and if I don't figure it out, it's going to keep blowing my shit. You know what I mean? And so that is still desire, but it's not, it's less curious desire. And it's like, I just really want to know this. And it's like, I keep hitting this fucking wall, and if I don't break through it, I'm not going to make progress. You know what I mean? And so grammar exercises, either just because you really want to, or because you feel like you genuinely have to figure out what the fuck's going on. That's when you should do grammar exercises. That's when the 10, 20% of grammar exercises should be coming in. Miss. I forgot how this was pronounced, bro. I'm pretty sure I didn't pronounce this right. But basically, I watched this video by Luke last night, and I haven't actually really implemented this that much. I kind of only started like very smallly. But it was this video where he was talking about like, in terms of improving your conversational speaking, journaling in your target language, and basically journaling about things you've done that day. Because if you wanted to start having a conversation, you would probably start talking about things that you've done that day. And so this journaling practice, it allows you to kind of like put the strain and the effort and the intent into the journaling. And it kind of allows you to like build phrases in your bank so that when you're having conversations, you can kind of just pull from those phrases. You know what I mean? It's already stored. Oh yeah, I've also been doing the Scriptōrium method. I forgot about that. So I actually got that method from Luke as well. It's not his originally, but basically the method is you read something and then you say it out loud, and it engages all 4 modalities because you're reading, you're speaking it. As you're speaking it, you're listening, and then after you listen, you write. And the thing is, you only actually like speak and write something you can hold in your short-term memory. So let me give you an example. So I have this little bar here. Canto duke me. Wait, that says canto duke. Oh yeah. Canto duke me hori. Amo duke me. So that's, I sung duke me today. I love duke me. You know what I mean? Very simple. And so if I wanted to like transcribe that to like maybe a different journal, I would do canto duke me, because that would probably be like those would probably be the 3 words that I could actually write down from memory. Canto duke me. I'll just do it right now. Okay. Right? Canto duke me hori hori amo duke me. And since I could do amo duke me, I'll just do the whole thing. Now, if you could only do amo, just do that. If you could only do amo du, just do that. You only do as much as you actually can, right? As much as you actually remember, and as much as you could actually recite and like transcribe from memory. Amo duke me. Lidiana. Right? Awesome. So the Scriptōrium method is fucking elite, bro. I've been doing the Scriptōrium method for like a few weeks. This is my Coptic and Greek journal. Where are you, Aristotle? There we are. Don meta at physica. If you know, you know. So there's that. Yeah. So those are like really the main ways I've been engaging with language acquisition. A ton of input, but in different ways. So songs, even like podcasts. Like I like watching Luke's podcast on his channel Scorpio Matianus. I actually found a couple other creators, Latin creators that I'm gonna start like getting more into. And so I feel like honestly, like just having a ton of input and engaging with the language as much as possible, like that's the most important thing, guys. 80-90% of your time when it comes to like let's say you had 30 minutes a day to spend with your language acquisition. Let's spread that over the week instead. So that's 210 minutes per week. That would be about 3.5 hours. So if we wanted to 80-20 that 3.5 hours, that would be about like 170 minutes. So that would be like just under 3 hours. So like if we wanted to like 80-20, 90-10 it throughout the week, you should be spending 3 hours your week just listening to the language, just like engaging with the language. It could be just passively listening to it, listening to it through song, podcast, a show, or also even like listening and reading at the same time, even just reading if you want. I just think reading is like by itself is just hard because you don't know the language. And so I would rather just listen. I'd rather have someone who does teach me how the language should sound and read to me. And if I want to read along with it, I'll do that, right? And so there's that. And then like for like 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes a week. So maybe like once per week or maybe like twice per week. It's like one like 30-minute segment or maybe like 2 15-20-minute segments throughout the week. You really are intentional with grammar reps. That, I promise you guys, is going to make your language journey like so much better. Let me just give you this final analogy. You should view your language journey as alchemy, because that's what it is. When you're taking in all of the input, comprehensible input, you're just taking in. That's like the raw ore you're collecting. And then grammar tells you how to refine that raw ore so that it's gold. All right? Awesome.